Hello, and thank you so much for investing your time with us here at the Murrow Symposium. My name is Chad Biggs, and I'm a partner at Red Sky, a strategic communication agency based in Boise, Idaho. I'm also a proud Wazoo alum, so go Cougs. At Red Sky, we create and share stories that matter. And in this past year, we've really focused in on what matters most, taking care of one another and ourselves. Today, we have an amazing panel on digital health and wellness, where we'll be talking about practices and strategies to maintain your overall health and wellness in a digital environment. Some quick notes on the format. In a minute, you will hear from Sara Stout and Bailey Maykovich, who will briefly introduce themselves and tell a little bit about their background. Sara will then kick off the conversation, asking questions that draw out some of the high-level themes and trends that we should be thinking about. You'll have access to the session chat, and we encourage you to use it. Engage and ask questions. And if you're so inclined, check out Red Sky in the sponsor section. Okay, now let's get started. Sara?
Hello, everyone, and thank you. Welcome to our session on digital health and wellness. My name is Sara Stout. I'm the Assistant Dean of Student Affairs in the Murrow College of Communication. I've been with the college almost 7 years. And my history in higher education is in student services. I love working with students. I love seeing them succeed and helping them and guiding them through their path to graduation. And I'm excited today to share this time with one of my favorite Murrow Cougs. Her name is Bailey Maykovich, and I first met Bailey at Alive when she was coming into the Murrow College as a new student, not a freshman. She'll tell you her story here in a bit. But I just wanted to share that this topic of digital health and wellness has become really important to all of us over this past year. We came upon the digital life that we all lead now in March of 2020 as a pandemic was starting to rage in Washington state. And we thought that we'd be here for a few weeks. And now we're going on to our 13th month. So we're here today just to talk and have an open conversation with Bailey about her experiences as a student during this pandemic. I will share some of my experiences, some of our thoughts, and some of our tips. So I will let Bailey introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say a huge thank you for being here today. I'm super excited to share this presentation with you all. And I will share right now.
I'm hoping Bailey didn't freeze on us here. She may have, so she might be joining us back here in a moment. There she comes. Sorry about that. Bailey, why don't you just go ahead and share an introduction of yourself? We don't have to put the screen on, that might be causing us some technical difficulties. Yeah, it looks like she's still having some problems. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the structure of what we're hoping to share today. We're gonna be talking about 3 areas in regards to digital health and wellness, and that is gonna be motivation, balance, and routine. And I would say that Bailey has a lot to share because she is a student who is definitely what I would label as a big time overachiever. She involves herself in many, many things. And she is an example of a Murrow student that gets involved in many things at once while she's also in school. So Bailey, why don't you go ahead and just start with sharing a little bit about yourself.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. Sorry about the interruptions and any Wi-Fi troubles that happen here today. It goes along really well with our topic as we talk about digital wellness and the different challenges that we all are experiencing during this time and in the past year. I'd just like to introduce myself real quick. My name is Bailey Maykovich. I'm an undergraduate student studying in the Murrow College of Communications. and I'm serving as the current Vice President of Public Relations on the WSU Panhellenic Council. As Sarah was saying, I came into WSU. It was technically my freshman year of college, but I did complete my associate's degree in independent studies during my time in high school through the Running Start program, which, if any of you have heard of it, it's a pretty awesome opportunity that allows high school students to kind of jump ahead and, as it says in the title, get a running start on things. This year is traditionally my junior year, although I'm taking more time in the college. I'm going to take the traditional 4-year route that you would take, except instead of just pursuing one degree, I am currently doing a double degree. I'm studying public relations and risk and crisis communications. And I'm also just really interested, as Sarah said, in getting involved in as many things as possible. I recently was able to present my research on mental health during COVID-19 at the Circa Undergraduate Research Showcase. And I'm also involved in AWC and PRSSA. Sarah, would you like to get us started with the first topic, which is motivation?
Yes, thank you, Bailey. Motivation is something that is very specified for each of us, right? Depending upon your personality, you can be motivated either intrinsically or extrinsically. I find myself to be a very intrinsically motivated person, meaning I don't really need a lot of things outside of myself to keep myself motivated, to meet my goals, to plan my day, to get my job done, to be a mom and be a wife. The pandemic has definitely changed some things in regards to our own motivations. Those of us that are extrinsically motivated tend to struggle more, I think, during the pandemic because we look to outside things to motivate us, whether that's our social life, our friends, things like that. And being a student during this time at Washington State University has been very challenging for all of our Murrow students and all of the WSU students in general. So Bailey, I wanted to hopefully that you could share with us a piece about your motivation during the pandemic, how you found success and what some of your challenges have been and some of the solutions to motivational issues.
Yeah, I would love to speak on that. I think it's interesting because, Sarah, I connect with you in a level at which I'm also very intrinsically motivated. And I think something that came up for me during this past year has been that I'm no longer as intrinsically motivated as I used to be. I still am, and there's still that fire in me, but it's getting harder and harder to push through and find that in myself these days. But, that's just to say you're not alone if you're feeling the same way, or if you're someone who's more externally motivated and you're really struggling. So you're not alone. I would say it's interesting because the change in our environment has created some new opportunities for success with its challenges. I think the first success for me was coming into online classes. All of a sudden, my schedule widened up. There was no longer travel time I had to account for. If I was feeling unmotivated, I could still show up and attend things in a way that I couldn't when we were in person. So, for example, in person, if I were to wake up late feeling unmotivated to go to class, that would be a bigger challenge than when we were online and I could just wake up and all of a sudden I'm logged in, I'm on my laptop, I'm there. But I think a challenge that came with that is something that's always been a huge motivator for me is being involved in events going on and different social events, different gatherings. And since those were no longer there to kind of end out my week or
Looks like we lost her again. I think she'll probably have to jump back on. But I can just add from the professional standpoint in my world, being a professional staff member at Washington State, I went from a commute of about an hour and a half one way. I was living out in the mountains before pandemic hit. And now I'm down in the LC Valley. I'm getting to enjoy no commute right now. I feel much more efficient in my day working remotely for the Murrow College. And I've been able to feel more success that way. I do go to campus from time to time when I feel I need a new scenery or a new way of looking at things. The challenge has been for me is definitely has been the the ability or the inability to see my coworkers and see my staff, see students. I hate that I don't get to see students on a regular basis. So I've been trying to stay active in different things at the college level, which has helped me stay motivated. Bailey, go ahead and are you there? I can't tell if you're frozen or not. If you hear me, go ahead and talk. If not, I can keep going in regards to motivation. Yeah, it looks like she might still be struggling. So yeah, motivation from a standpoint of a student, what we're seeing from the college side of things is that our students are struggling with the lack of motivation. And whether you're intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated, you're seeing challenges on a different level. So Bailey, it looks like you are back. If you wanted to share with us some of your challenges and solutions to those things.
Yes. And something also I would just like to pause as I've been bumped out of this meeting twice. A big lesson I've learned in digital wellness is to stop apologizing so much and to instead replace it with thank you for understanding. So thank you all for understanding that I have popped in and out a few times today. And just to go on and talk about some of my challenges, I think that the biggest one for me is I have always been motivated by other people I care about in my life, and no longer having access to see these people and go to these big gatherings where as an extroverted person I always fed off of that energy and those surroundings. I think no longer feeling like I could mark those on the calendar as something to get me through the week or the month was a huge barrier to my motivation. I mean, especially I was planning, and Sara knows this because she was supposed to go as well. I was planning on going to a trip to New York that spring break before we ended up ultimately staying home. And I think that in the first semesters of online learning, that was a huge, just like barrier to me wanting to try to do anything else, because I was like, well, this is all getting taken away. I'm not really sure what I want to do here. But I think that a huge change that I've seen in my motivation is from reframing my mindset. And I think that it's something that is difficult, but we all have the power to do if you really set your mind to it. And so change meant that to stop attending class from just wherever I was comfortable. I needed to set up a desk space. I needed to make sure I was getting up and getting dressed in the morning, not just wearing of course, everyone's going to have those days where you're in your sweats and sweatshirt, but now I try so hard to just get up, put my makeup on, sit down, eat breakfast. It really, I think that is my biggest motivation. And that'll also play into some of the other themes we'll talk about if you wanted to continue into our discussion of balance, Sara.
Yes, balance. Balance has been very interesting for me. I would say prior to pandemic, balance happened naturally in a way for me because I've been doing this for a long time. I was commuting from a faraway distance. My daughter was a senior in high school last year. Now she's no longer in school. But I was able to, in the morning, get in my car, have that time to get prepared for my day, get to work, do my day, do my meetings, meeting with students, meeting with staff and faculty. And then I get back in my car, go home at night, and then be able to balance that out. Now, the trouble that I've had with pandemic is that it's all blending together now, right? I'm at home, I'm in my office at home, I'm still doing my home duties. And so I've been having a hard time with the balance because it's all blurred together. How has that worked for you as a student, as you found the challenges and successes in balancing your life?
That's a great question. And I also see there's some questions I could answer from the chat real quick if we wanted to pause. It says, Bailey, from a student perspective, what's your advice for other students to push through to the end of this semester and finish strong? And then how did I approach fall classes after the 2020 spring semester? So for the first question, we actually have a little handout that we will send in the chat towards the end of this presentation that I think has some helpful tips that I've come up with. But I would say that my advice is to recognize that I think it's been a hard reality to accept, but at least for the time being, our world has changed. And accepting that is like the first step to reframing your mindset and setting new goals that are more accomplishable and something that you can really be proud of. So I would also highly, highly recommend that if you're feeling like maybe you don't have a support system or that's one of the pieces holding you back from feeling motivated, I know that it can be hard, especially if you're either a first year student or you haven't been to the in-person campus and connected with student groups there, to join one of our clubs or student organizations. I think that's honestly been my biggest motivator, even when I feel like I'm struggling in my classes or feel like I'm just not like ready to be present. Knowing that I have other people who I look up to and who are accomplishing amazing things around me really gives me that drive to want to accomplish the same level of great things as them. But that's also coming from someone who's intrinsically motivated. If you're someone who is more externally motivated, I think that it can be really helpful to just set goals that are piece by piece and seem more accomplishable than this big, great task of finishing strong at the end of the semester. I know that's been something on my mind even today as I think about what I need to do to finish the rest of my day. So hopefully that's helpful. And again, I think you'll really enjoy the handout that we've prepared for you. That has a lot more in-depth, some in-depth advice on some of these topics we've covered today. And when it comes to approaching fall classes, I think summer was really key for me, taking that break. And it doesn't have to be a whole summer that you take, it can even just be a weekend. I think giving yourself a reset is really important when it comes to starting off a new semester strong. And I think my biggest like lesson, as I said before, when it comes to approaching fall classes was realizing that I needed to find a new motivator. My motivator couldn't be that I was going to go to attend in-person events because that was no longer my reality. So instead of saying, I'm going to do this so that I can go to a football game, I had to reframe my mindset and go, okay, I'm going to get all of this stuff done so that I can go to the beach with my mom or something where it was still socially distant, socially safe, not necessarily what I wanted to do, but like something that was good enough to keep me going and give me a good break. And then finally, before we go on to balance, what new things have you tried that you wouldn't have done if COVID wouldn't have happened? I honestly don't know that I would be able to work this semester if we weren't doing online classes. All of my classes are asynchronous. And I've always wanted to work at Dutch Bros Coffee and be a barista. And that was something I was able to accomplish this semester. If you're looking for a more fun and like very random thing that I tried, I was given a wood carving tool set by my dad. And that was something that I learned how to do this summer. So both sides of it, work and then
I'd like to piggyback off of that because you just mentioned time spent with the beach with your mom, right? And the wood carving tool from your dad. I'd say one thing that I've seen as been a real positive to COVID and the pandemic has been relationships with family, right? So you may not have been able to come back to Pullman full time and develop those relationships with your peers and your friends. But it sounds to me like you're strengthening your relationships with your families. Has that been part of your motivation?
I think it totally has. And I think in a weird way, I think it's really revealed who are the most important people in my life. And of course, I still strive to keep connections with as many people as I can. That's one of my personal goals. But I think it's really shown me who is my true support system and who are the people that I need to be there in my life to continue to feel like I'm supported and motivated. And you know what? That group is always changing. That's never going to be just a set group for me. I mean, personally, my family's always going to be in that group. But as far as friends go, I mean, I think one of the greatest parts of college and your college experience is that you can meet new people and all of a sudden they could become your closest friends ever. So I think it's really important to know that if you're feeling like maybe things have changed within your friend group, your social circle in the past year, that is completely normal. And sometimes it can even be like the greatest motivator for you.
I think, hey Bailey, let's go ahead and do some of those questions at the very end. Let's talk about balance now, and then talk about routine, and then it looks like you're going to have quite a few student questions just for you, specifically about how you plan to move forward. So let's talk about balance, the successes and challenges you found with balance, and then move from there.
Perfect. Yes. So we will totally just get to those questions in a little bit. But to take a step back and go back to kind of our schedule for the day, balance being our second topic we wanted to cover. I think that the first success that I found with balance was that initially the workload from online classes was much more doable. I was involved in a lot of different organizations that required me to do tabling events in person, different things like that, that all of a sudden were lifted from my schedule. And it was like, I could breathe, I could get my work done. Like it was so easy. It was insane. I was bored, which is crazy to think about now, because as I move into my challenge, I think my biggest challenge with balance has been saying no to people. Since I am available now, everybody kind of knows that everybody's online and available during almost all hours of the day. And I think that my biggest challenge with balance was learning how to say no to people, which is actually the solution in this situation. I think we're trained to not want to say no to people because we're trained to think that that's closing a door. But you actually might end up closing more doors if you end up signing up for too many things and not being able to accomplish them all in a given time period. So I think boundary setting is my biggest piece of advice for anyone who's feeling overwhelmed. It's definitely not something I've been completely successful at, but I think it's a constant work in progress and something that we all can do better at. And I think there's a lot of different things that play into that. I think even there was a really great speaker at symposium yesterday talking about different challenges that females face in the workplace. And I think part of that for me is being female and feeling like if I say no, that's a sign of weakness. And I think my biggest lesson with balance this year, and honestly a blessing that came from this whole situation, is that I think I have finally gotten a better hold on knowing what my limits are and being able to properly say, okay, this is what I can accomplish, but I also still need to take time to take care of myself.
I completely agree. What a great way. And sometimes I think the pandemic is opening our eyes to things like that, right? So myself, I can just add that as a professional that works a lot of hours prior to COVID on campus and now off campus in my home, prior to pandemic, I was involved in community things with my kids, with my daughter, volleyball. I'm a big volleyball mom. That's my extra thing. So I'm heavily involved in a club volleyball community. I was also very involved in like an FFA community. And since that time, my life phases are changing. At the same time, I'm more of an empty nester mom now, but I'm seeing that for me to find joy and to not feel like I'm going crazy, I have to set those boundaries. And I think I've done a fairly good job of that now. That's been really one positive success that's come out of this for myself as well. So to open up the next area, which you're going to talk about, is routine, right? So routines have definitely changed. Like I said, I used to commute a lot and now I'm working from home. I've had to be very intentional about my daily routine, making sure that I get up at an hour that allows me to get ready, eat, take a walk, talk to my husband. I now live in a multi-generational home with my mom. My mom is 76 and she has some health challenges, and so I live with her. So I have to balance my routine to make sure to include her, as well as my children and my pets. I've been able to spend a lot more time with my pets. But what have you seen as your successes, challenges, and solutions for your daily routines?
That's a great question. And I think it was interesting because the season in which this all just kind of really just started for all of us experiencing it in the US plays into what my biggest success was, which is I really enjoyed actually when we were first experiencing online classes. I loved going to class outside. I love being able to go, I can take my laptop, I can bring it outside, I can enjoy the nice weather. Like right after that, I could go drive and watch the sunset if I wanted. Like I didn't feel so confined as I had been before, being like, okay, I need to walk to this building and then I have to run over here and drive before my parking expires. I feel like I just was like so in this routine of I control my day and there isn't really anyone else that's in control of it. But moving into that, I think that shiny newness of being able to do that wore off. And my biggest challenge was that I didn't really have much motivating me to leave my house. I mean, I went outside, but they say, I forget where I heard it, but there's a saying that goes that you need 3 places in your life in order to feel balanced. And most of us only have about 1 these days, and that's wherever you live. And I think that was the biggest challenge for me, was living. I mean, last semester I lived in Pullman, and there would be like, in the wintertime when it gets really cold, there was no reason for me to leave my house except to maybe get takeout. Like, it was insane. It was driving me crazy. And moving into my solution for that, I have decided the biggest change in my attitude that has affected both balance and motivation, if we were to backtrack, is making sure that I try to leave my house at least once a day, even if it's just driving around or going for a walk. Even if it's like feeling like the worst day ever and I feel like I have no time because maybe I haven't done as good of a job balancing and I've said yes to too many things that I need to get done. Being able to backtrack and, like I said before, say thank you for understanding. I need a break. I need to go outside, has been a huge game changer for me in my journey with digital wellness.
I think that we've all found that we've been able to give grace much more easily now, right? I think that we've seen pressures, a little bit more relief in those pressures, and have been able to say things like, even after yesterday's symposium, it was a long day. It was a fun day. I learned so much. I gained so much motivation and inspiration. But at the end of it, I was really tired. So I was able to tell my family, I need a little bit of time alone to just clear my mind, drink some water, get up and walk around a little bit. And I think that that's one thing that has happened is I've seen at least less pressure to be on all of the time because of the digital world that we're all finding that we're having to live in every moment of the day.
And I think bouncing off of that too, that's the place that I feel like I'm currently at. But I'm sure, as many of you listening or watching might understand, I don't think that was an immediate feeling, at least in my experience. I think at first, I mean, even pre-COVID, I was chained to my phone, like always checking my LinkedIn, my Outlook, my everything, my Blackboard, my Canvas, like way too many things to be checking first thing in the morning and last thing before I go to bed. And if I have any advice to just share with you, even if you're experiencing a very overwhelming schedule, it's to take those minutes before you go to bed and not stare at your phone, as hard as it is, and just like ground yourself and remember that, yes, work, school, all of these other obligations that we have are very important, but you're a human being. And I think that that's been the easiest thing to forget and remember during this time, because I think we're constantly in this cycle of going back and forth. And I think once you can find a balance between that and just feeling like, hey, yes, I can do all these amazing things and I can get all my work done, I'm also a human and I need to take breaks. I think that's been like my biggest overall takeaway.
One thing that I struggle with is being somewhat of an extrovert, but more so of an introvert. My energy is really derived from others emotionally. So I'm an empath. I'm very empathetic. I love hugging. I love reaching out to people that way. The first couple months of the pandemic was really tough for me, not seeing the staff that I get to work with every day. I love working with the Murrow Student Services staff. We have an amazing group of professionals that do an amazing job with our students, but just having them around and talking to them, I miss it so much. How do you feel that you've been able to handle the lack of face-to-face and physical closeness with people?
So I think that I have 2 really good answers to that. And one is accessible to some, and I'm very lucky that it's accessible to me. And the other, if you're able to access this web series, I'm assuming you're able to kind of access Zoom or one of those online platforms. But I do recognize that stable internet and all of these things are not accessible to everyone in the entire population. my first solution has been working. I think getting to have a job and getting to be around people socially distanced has been a huge thing for me. But if we're going to talk about things that can't be replaced in person and I can't see people, it's been interesting because, as I stated in the beginning of the presentation, I'm currently serving as the VP of Public Relations on the Panhellenic Council for the Greek community. And I don't know, I reflect on it a lot because the council members who I'm so close with and speak to every single day, I have never met probably 70% of them in person before. I don't know what they fully look like in person. And I think that that's crazy to think about, that all of these people who I consider to be some of my closest friends, I've never actually gotten to give a hug. And I think, just to answer your question, it's just reframing that mindset and accepting that we can still have those really exciting moments together. It just looks a little bit different. And stepping out of my comfort zone and FaceTiming people who I wouldn't normally just FaceTime before. I'm not a big phone person, so this has been a huge change for me, is to be on my phone to connect with people. And I think I was so against it at first, but now I've just learned that that is a new tool for me. And I think just being able to celebrate together our successes, even if you don't fully get to be there and give that person a physical hug, sending those text messages that say, hey, I'm thinking about you, checking in with your friends and seeing what they're up to if you don't live. I mean, most of me and my friends now don't even live in the same state, which is crazy. And just saying, hey, how are things, how are things over in Texas? How are things over in San Diego? It's like a whole different world, but we're able to just learn how to connect in new ways. And I think that's been a huge thing for me.
Thank you. That's really great. I think we should also talk about the daily need of self-care, and specifically sleep and food, right? So pre-pandemic, I think that I had no issue sleeping. I was able to, I was commuting a lot. I spent a lot of time in my car. I got to listen to my own radio and things like that. And at the end of the day, I had no issue sleeping. Since the pandemic, I find sleeping to be a bigger challenge for me because my routines are so different. I'm not in the car as much. I'm not moving around as much. So sleep has been a challenge for me. I've been really trying to find ways to tackle that. What I've found is taking a walk before I go to bed is good. I disconnect earlier in the evening from my phone because I find that if I stay on my phone, scrolling or shopping or whatever, getting on Pinterest or whatever, reading my Facebook, that I struggle with falling asleep. The other issue is food. Prior to pandemic, I would say that I struggled a lot more with my eating habits because I would go to work and not eat in the day. Now I have access to food all day and it's not been the best. So I've been trying to find ways to eat healthier, keeping snacks on hand that are healthier, more fruits, more nuts, things like that. How have you found your eating and your sleeping has been affected through the pandemic? What has been some of your challenges and what have been some of your solutions in regards to the way you take care of yourself?
I think that's a great thing to reflect on too, because that's definitely been an up and down journey. And I think it's going to continue to be up and down, honestly, as we look into just the few weeks ahead and the rest of the semester. My relationship with eating healthy has been really interesting because I think I've had the opposite problem in that, because I no longer have this, like, I walk to this building and then I walk to where my lunch is and then I walk here. I just sit on my computer and never move. And I think that luckily, as I said earlier, I found a better balance in taking those breaks. But before I was taking those breaks, I'd be like, have I really taken a break to eat today? Like, have I really taken this time to just turn off my phone? I mean, I feel like at the beginning, if we were going back to like 2020 spring and fall semester, those semesters were probably the worst for me in terms of I never took like a lunch break. I was always doing stuff on my laptop and just eating my lunch while I was doing stuff on my laptop. I think now I try to take very mindful, like, meal breaks where I treat it like a work lunch and I turn off all of my technology. And I think that a big lesson that's come from that, and sleep as it relates to sleep, I'll talk about that in a second, but is learning that other people can be patient and you can be patient, and that people are willing to be patient. And I think that in my head, whenever somebody texts me, it doesn't feel like when somebody's asking you a question in person and you can just either answer it or tell them you'll get back to them later. It feels like you have to answer right away and you have to have this well thought out thing that you just had in your back pocket. And I think that with taking time to take breaks, to take a lunch, dinner, and go to bed on time it's been hard to do, but it's the only thing that's been able to keep me in a nice routine sleep schedule. I think it's hard because now, whereas when we were in person and things were more scheduled to where you were going physically, people didn't feel like they had to text you as much. And so I would go home at the end of the night from classes and a busy day, and my phone would kind of just have died down for the day. Now I think sometimes I just turn off my phone and go to bed, and I know that there are messages that I'm going to have to answer in the morning. And I think that that's a new reality. And while it's unfortunate and it can be kind of hectic, I think learning to just say, I don't have to answer this right away. I can go to bed. Like it's 10 p.m. I want to go to bed. This is way past my like office hours of when I'm supposed to be helping people. I can go to bed and I can answer it first thing in the morning. I think that that has been the one thing keeping me from never going to bed. Because if I had just sat and answered everyone's questions as they came in, and all of these different emails I'm getting and all of these different things I have to do, I would never sleep. And so that's been a huge learning lesson for me, is just people can be patient. You have to prioritize, and you have to take time to just recognize that you don't have a duty to be on your phone 24 hours a day. You may have different things that you've signed up to, whether it be your office hours, if you have any sort of office hours, or you have class time that you have to be present for. But you have to take, you have to take hours out of your day to sleep and to have time for yourself. And I think while COVID has made that seem like that's not a necessity anymore, it still 110% is.
I absolutely agree with you. I would say that's been one of my challenges for sure. One thing I found that has helped me, I really miss my office on campus. And so I've created a great space here for my office that I find joy in the little things. For instance, every day I fill up my water, right? I drink probably 5 of these a day while I'm sitting here, which has been really, really great. I also have my favorite mug that I went back to the office and got. This was a gift from a student many years ago when I was in the Carson College. I had a student that went to Utah for spring break, and he brought me back this cup. So I try to find time to drink my coffee out of this cup a few days a week, which I love. And then I've also found that I've been trying to add like live plants to my office. So I have, my mom bought me this for Easter. It's really fun, but I also have more live plants in my house than I ever have had before, because I love looking at them. I enjoy them. I love watering them. I love taking care of them. The other thing is, one of the things that we got to enjoy in our symposium packet was our flat murrow. Spending time just coloring flat murrow is so much fun. Have you found that during your time this past year that you found those little things that have made you happy and give you some joy?
I do, and plants is one of mine as well. I have a lot of big plants that I couldn't necessarily move to show you, but if I counted around my room, I have 7 in my room right now. I'm a big plant lady, but the little things that have given me joy, it's interesting because in a weird way, I think that pre-COVID, I was going through a really hard time with finding joy in a lot of little things, because I had a very busy schedule, and that added pressure of in-person driving from place to place was beginning to be a lot. And I was really struggling and not really feeling like I had anyone to reach out to. And I don't know, post beginning of the pandemic, I have really, as I said earlier, it's really been revealed to me who I care most about and who really cares about me. And I think one of the littlest things that brings me so much joy is that I have chosen to stay home this semester, which has been hard. I think that's been a huge change. I have always been in Pullman for as long as I possibly can, like even almost not going home for Thanksgiving breaks. Like when I was in person as a student, I was always there, never needed to go home. And I think that being able to be home, I have this high school best friend who lives very close to me. And before, our relationship was very like close, but we never got to talk. And I think that the little thing that has brought me the most joy is now that we can talk every day. And I can just drive to her house if I need someone to sit outside on her porch and talk to. And I think that's been a huge thing for me, is just having that one designated person who I can see. And I would also say, in a weird way, and this kind of answers one of the questions that's in the chat about how will these things motivate you in the future. I think in the future, if let's say we are to follow an in-person model, or if we're even looking like years and years in the future, and I'm speaking of my future workplace, because who really knows what the world's going to be like in the next few months? No one does. I think that I will always have changed. I think that from now on, my boundaries are set. And I think that that motivates me in a way I never would have expected it to. And getting enough sleep motivates me in a way that I never would have expected it to. And going outside motivates me in a way I never would have expected it to. And so I think that those things that I've like latched onto as my support system have now become these essentials in my routine that are not going to go away. Versus like if we go back, if we're to flash back to my sophomore year, fully in person, I was not taking care of myself. I was not sleeping enough. I was definitely not going outside enough. And I think that those are things that are going to motivate me when we eventually get to some sort of different world than what we're living in right now. I don't think that those things are going to change. I think those have turned from things I struggled with to non-negotiable things in my schedule that motivate me in a different way.
Wow, that's very, very impressive that you are becoming more self-aware, it sounds like to me. And I'm just really proud of you. I think that as a young woman, you've taken on so much in your time as a student in the Murrow College, that those things are so important. What you just said are so very important. If you're learning that now, as you're facing this pandemic, you will be able to teach that to others as you go forward. And I think it's so, so important that you have come to to acknowledge those things. So thank you so much for being such a good mentor and role model to other Murrow students and to future Murrow students that are hopefully watching this. I think one thing that Murrow College is really good at doing is teaching our students how to adapt, right? How to, like, the technology is always going to change, or right now there are jobs being invented that were not around, 2 years ago because of COVID and because of other things. And the pandemic is teaching us some really great lessons. And I think that you were spot on in talking about those things that are going to be non-negotiable to you in the future. And I'm really proud of you for thinking that way. Should we look at some of the questions that might be in the chat as we round up our time here? So
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would also love to just really quickly say thank you for those kind words. I really appreciate it. And I would also like to say a huge thank you to all of the faculty at the Murrow College, because if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if I would have stayed at WSU if it hadn't been for the Murrow College. I think that as much as I can speak now and reflect on my experience, what I was experiencing a year ago was really, really difficult. And I think that my motivation, like at least for a few weeks, my motivation to return to class was at an all-time low, something I had never experienced before. And I think that it was truly the faculty and students I'm connected with here at the Murrow College that motivated me and made me feel like I was taken care of, and made me feel like I was supported and pushed to do my best regardless of the circumstances. And so I just like to take a moment, because I haven't been given enough time to thank everybody here. So and for those of you watching, if you're feeling like you're still in that stage of going through something really difficult, that's totally normal. And it's gonna, life comes and goes in these big ups and downs. And so as much as I can say I'm self-aware and really have it all together right now, it comes and goes. And so if you're experiencing that too, don't feel like you're alone. And
I
then,
completely agree. You're exactly right, right? I think that one thing that we all need to realize is that we are different places at different times. Our mental health is so important. And um, I am part of a college and a university that is so helpful and willing to reach out and help each other. And so, as a Murrow student, as a Murrow staff member, I think we can agree that we're part of a community and a family that really does care about each other, and that we want to help each other and reach out to each other. So, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. I think we should answer this one question I think is really important. The students that are Murrow students for the first time this academic year. So the ones that started in the fall of 2020 and the ones that are new in the spring of 21 and that did not get to enjoy a traditional, typical first year life at WSU like you got to enjoy, right? How do you think the students are going to adapt, the ones that didn't get the real classroom experience? How do you think that they're going to adapt going forward, especially the freshmen who haven't experienced the actual college classroom, including with the Zoom world, right? So we don't know what fall is going to look like. I can tell you in the Morrell College, we're planning for a much more, a better face-to-face experience in the fall with our classes. We can't read the future, but we do know that that's what we're planning. But Bailey, what do you think that any advice you can offer the current first year students and the students that are going to be first year students next year coming into the Morrell College?
I think that this is a great question that I've loved to speak on because I also kind of had a weird return to in-person classes. When I did Running Start, I did primarily online classes that were totally asynchronous. So no Zoom, no contact, no professor-student interaction, besides some emails. And I was really nervous coming to WSU. I was like, I need to brush off my social skills because, I had gone to an totally online experience for 2 years. So probably something similar in a way, at least, to what you all might be experiencing if you haven't been in in-person classes yet. I think that my biggest advice is kind of similar to what advice you get when you're going to high school, which is it is going to feel big at first, and then it starts to feel smaller and smaller, and then it feels normal. So no matter where you're coming from, I think going to a big university and walking into a classroom or walking into a lecture hall and being like, whoa, this is a big room. I think it can be scary, but you'll soon start to realize that it's normal. And I think that you can find comfort that all of us are going to be experiencing this at the same time. So even though I have been an in-person student in the past, I am just as nervous about going back to in-person classes because I'm like, whoa, this is going to feel so new. But I think we all have to just trust in our own ability to adapt. We adapted to Zoom class. That was in and of itself a huge, huge challenge. And so I think if we can adapt to Zoom, we can adapt to anything. And my only things that I would give you advice as having attended classes in person at WCU specifically is if you can sit in the front, sit in the front. People don't like to do that, or at least in the middle. Doesn't have to be like front row, but like sit where you can see. I think we're used to being able to like multitask now that we can be on class and you could look at your phone to check something. You could look at your notes. You could do, we're so used to just rolling with whatever our environment is. And I think that that'll be a huge weird feeling when we're in a classroom and whoa, all of a sudden everyone can see like what I'm doing. They're not just seeing this window of me. I would also say be mindful of the time that you're in your class. The class time flies by. And if you can just force yourself to be completely immersed in the course while you're there, I think that makes a huge difference because then you're not going to walk home and be like, wait, what did I just hear? So I think if you can just like dedicate your time to these 50-minute sessions or hour and 15-minute sessions, whatever class you have, you are going to feel so much better at the end of the day and you're going to have so much less work to do. And finally, just give yourself a good little checklist of what you need in a class. Do you need to bring your water with you? Do you need to bring your laptop with you? Do you need notes? I think that that's something that's going to be weird because we're so used to just being able to be like, Like, I know these days all I need is my laptop, and I just walk around with my laptop. My laptop is my universe these days. And so I think if you can just make yourself a good little checklist, you never want to get to class and have forgotten like half of your stuff, because I've definitely done that before. But I think that it's really no different than many other classroom scenarios. It's the same concept where, you know, as you get to a bigger school, it's going to feel huge at first. And then all of a sudden, you're just going to be walking through the auditorium, minding your own business, and it's not even going to faze you anymore. So that would be my best advice on that question.
Oh, great. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Bailey took some time to make some really cool infographic resources that we would like to share with anybody that's interested. I'm thinking Patty is our moderator for the chat on the Attentify side of things, and she's going to try to put those things in the chat. But if you would like to get a hold of myself or Bailey, I'm happy to chat with anybody over email and set up Zoom meetings with you. My email address is my first initial S and my last name Stout. So sstout@wsu.edu. And Bailey's is right there as well. We are always happy to talk with anyone about how you're feeling, what's going on, what are your challenges, what are your successes. I think it's important that we also share what's working well for us. And that's what we hope that we did for you today. Going forward, the Murrow College has an amazing ambassador program led by Mackenzie Johnson. And we have ambassadors that are always available through our Murrow Minutes time that can talk to you about what's going on, how you're feeling. Also, WSU at large, we have an amazing counseling center and other student resources that we can help you with. But we're happy to be that resource for you. And just know that one of the best things that you can do for yourself is take care of yourself and to take care of others and to be there for one another. So Bailey, do you have anything that you want to add as we get ready to end our session?
I would just like to reaffirm what you were saying. I am totally a resource to any of you, any of your friends. If you just want to shoot me an email, I think that one of the best parts of my experience at the Murrow College has been meeting all of the other students that share similar passions as me. And I don't think that I would be here without those students pushing me and being my peers, and in some cases even being mentors to me. It was truly one of my friends I met my freshman year, who was a junior and then a senior at the time when COVID first became a thing. And she truly is who inspired me to be the student that I am today. And so if I can even offer advice to any one of you, or you feel like you just need someone to give some answers, to give some experience, to listen to you, I am totally here. And so are all of the Murrow ambassadors and faculty, I'm sure, if I can speak on behalf of all of them. So I just want to say thank you for attending. I know Zoom fatigue is super real, super real, especially as we get into like end of March, early April, like finals are around the corner. We're studying, we're doing our best. So if I can ask anything of you all today, it's take a break at the end of symposium, enjoy the rest of the week, and just kind of reflect on maybe some of the things you've learned from either this session or others that you've attended this week. And I appreciate your time and attention. It has been awesome getting to speak on all of these things.
Thank you, Bailey. It was so nice to visit with you today and so nice to see you again this week. I miss seeing you on campus. And so this has been really fun for me as your former academic advisor, somebody that has really valued your relationship and your time. So thank you so much. And everybody out there, take care. Take the last 5 minutes to get up, walk around, get a snack, and then be ready for the next session at 3 o'clock. So thank you so much and go Cougs.
Go Cougs. Thank you all.